Hello. The distributed wiki lets you add and edit content, but you can also edit the look and feel of that content. And more importantly, you can share that content between distributed wikis, so multiple organizations can cooperate on optimizing and sharing information. So let's take a look at how all this works. First thing is log in. Admin is the password for the demo site. And then let's go take a look. It's organized as a tree of web pages. So let's go into the child web pages. And we can see where we are. Distributed wiki demo, documentation, how to add content. Well, I'll show you how to add content. You just click on add and you add a page. Type in the name of the page. Give it a space and give it some lorem ipsum. Add and view. You have a new page. Now look at where we are. We can see where we are in the tree. Distributed wiki, documentation, how to add content, new page. You can add other types of content. Images, files are important, but Google Maps is maybe the most interesting one. So let's add a map. Give it some more lorem ipsum. It already has some default values in there. And so here we have a simple map. There are no locations in it, so we can go ahead and add a location. You can only add locations to maps. And here we have London. And give it the same lorem ipsum. Nobody reads lorem ipsum anyhow. And there you have information about London. You could add additional information about London below it. And of course, if you look at the map, you can now see that there's a marker for London. That's a very simple example, but I've done a much more complex and rich example. Here you can see, where are we here? Here we are in the video. What I want is I want to go up to Europe. Here we have the map of Europe, and so this is the map of Python companies in Europe, and we can click into Warsaw, and we can see the map of Python companies in Warsaw. Click in some more. We can actually click into NVIDIA, and you can see that there's actually a lot of content in NVIDIA, and each of those, you can click into those and see more information about it. So you can have really rich, complex hierarchies, either a tree of web pages, or you can include maps in your trees. Okay, so that's the basic. So we've seen how to add, edit content, but we can also edit the look and feel. So let's see how all that works. There are a bunch of content types related to web development content types. Here we can see what they are, and let's take a look at them in the management view. This is the management view. Previously, we were looking at the pages. But underneath that tree of pages is a tree of objects, and here we can actually interact with the objects. And here we have a bunch of different HTML objects. Container HTML, there's an ACE HTML, secure HTML, CSS, image file objects. We also have a bunch of JavaScript objects. So let's take a look at those. CK HTML, a very nice WYSIWYG editor. You can add links to it. So you can change the font size, you can bold, italic, change it, whether it's header, normal. Let's see. It's one of the things you're always doing as a blogger is you're always adding links to websites. So it's got a really easy to use tool for adding a link to a website. And what's even more important is to let people contact you. You really need to create an email. Now that's a little bit tricky. Here's an email type. That's a little bit tricky because not only do you have your email address in there, that part is easy, hello, but you always have a message body that you include, a complex message body. And to do that manually, you have to do the whole URL encoding thing, and then that's quite painful. Whereas if you do it, here you can save and view it, and then when you click on it, it pops up the email, does all the URL encoding for you. Very nicely. So that's the ACE HTML, and that works great. But sometimes you have something very technical, and it can munge the HTML because it tries to be too smart. And so, for example, when I'm doing the breadcrumbs, here's how I do the breadcrumbs using an ACE HTML. It's much more technical. It does syntax checking for you. So, for example, if you miss a closing tag, it tells you. And this actually expands into a chameleon page template. So here you can see the tal repeat. So it iterates over the parents of a node in the tree, and then from that it generates the breadcrumbs. Very, very nice. Very, very easy to write this. So much easier than it was doing it originally in Python or later in JavaScript. Image objects are very important for web design. CS objects, again, these are syntax checking. You make a mistake, and it tells you. We've got the JavaScript and secure HTML. So say you want to iterate over your users, your user logins, but you don't want to show everybody to the whole world. You can do a secure HTML, which only you'll see. And then we've got all the JavaScript stuff. So there are multiple types of things that generate JavaScript. So CoffeeScript, JavaScript, and Pug. Let's just start with the JavaScript. You can see that it has, it actually gives you error messages. It turns out in JavaScript, I didn't know this, if you have a empty quote, you should use the triple equals. And also, if you have a null, you should use the triple equals. And so having done that, it now gets rid of the syntax error. So I've actually learned stuff from this. That's the JavaScript. CoffeeScript is just amazing. Often you want to iterate over a list. So it's really easy to do that in CoffeeScript. You try to do that in JavaScript. Just look how much lines of code that generates, how many lines of code that saves you. And going back up again to Pug. Pug is really even the most amazing. I just love Pug. I'm really quite hooked on it. Instead of having all those opening and closing tags, it's like Python or CoffeeScript. You just use indentation to tell you what the structure is. So here I have HTML head, a title, a body, and some text. And down below, it generates that HTML. And over on the right, it displays that inside an iframe. And above that on the right, it generates the JavaScript, which would generate that. So you can either generate the HTML directly, which is a valid page template and works with Chameleon on the servers with Python, Chameleon page templates, or you can generate JavaScript, and that then renders in the client and populates it, what they call interpolated, with the values of whatever your objects are that you're displaying. So Pug is really sweet. And of course, there's all a JavaScript folder, so when I go to most open source JavaScript projects, they have these very long files that take me forever to sort of figure out, very complex. And so here what we do is we do lots of small JavaScript objects. Here we have a JavaScript folder. Child, you can actually is a folder, and you can click into one of those objects, and so you can edit the JavaScript. So here we're at the original JavaScript folder, here we're at another folder underneath it, and here we have the JavaScript object. We can go back up to the top. So you can view it all as a single page, which is really nice. You can do search on this and find whatever you want. Notice how it actually has, here's the Pug, and here's JavaScript, and here's CoffeeScript. So for this view, you see 3 different views of it, but of course the browser doesn't want to see 3 different views. So when you take a look at the view, it just takes all that and generates into a single minified JavaScript to be served. So very, very nice. It makes it really easy to edit the look and feel, both sort of at HTML, CSS, and also at the JavaScript level. So let's actually take a look at, we have these things called web classes where we store all of this. So there's a web page called a Wiki page, and that has a web class. A map has a web class. A location has a web class. Here we are on the tree of web classes. Here we are at the Wiki page, which is the most important, the root of the thing. And we can take a look at the index. So this is the default view, and it has a number of, here's the head. It's got some scripts for jQuery and Bootstrap and Pug. It's got the Pug runtime in there. And then basically, this is just the header, the head, for the outside of the HTML. And the body we do somewhere else because people are editing the body much more frequently. So let's take a look at the body. The body I edit frequently, and you want to get it all right. So this is a Pug. It's just so much easier to do things in Pug. I highly recommend it. And when you're working on this, you'll have multiple versions. And sometimes you want to go back to a previous version, so you can also go look at the history point of view, and then you can restore a previous version of the history. Okay, so there's the body, and here we have, there's a footer. So for this, I'm not doing anything fancy, so I just use a CK edit object for the footer. Navbar. Navbar is also one of those things that I'm always changing, so it's just really nice to have it with Pug. Then I generate Chameleon page templates, and from that it picks up whether you're logged in, things like that. It does conditionals on it. And of course you've got style sheets here. So no style sheets, but you could add a style sheet. It's there for you if you want it. You could add some styles if you don't like my styles. Okay, so that's the layout of a particular web class. That's the main one, the Wiki page web class. But there are other web classes. We've got Google Maps and locations. They've got the home page. And so the home page has a robots.txt. It's got a sitemap.xml. And it's got some web class-based content. So this is content that's only shown on the home page. And what it has the information for how to do the most recent. So it shows you the best, most recent pages. So it shows you the news because you just want the news page on the home page. And so the new page looks at the whole tree and it shows you what the most recent items are. Okay, so these are your web classes. So it's really easy to fire up one of these distributed wikis, Docker run, and call in the container name python link/distributed wiki. The tag is latest. So this is the second in 3 videos. The first one will be how to fire this up using just a web browser if you're not comfortable with the command line. And the third one is going to be on the distributed aspects of it. So the entire tree, it's a tree. You can publish any branch as JSON. You can then import those JSON into other distributed wikis so you can share and evolve content as a group of separate organizations. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please contact me. If you go back to the demo, go back to root, do a view, and there's even a contact. Thank you very much.